you have to cultivate a practice. Sometimes it's good when something comes naturally, because I've kind of leaned into some of those things in my life. And as I've gotten older, things that don't come as naturally, I've leaned into harder.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer, Center for Victory. With me, once again, is Caleb Kolb, our Chief Adventure Officer. And, boy, you guys are going to love this next story because this is a Caleb and Eric story. Right out of the handbook.
You've ever heard a good Caleb and Eric story? This is a good one.
Yeah. So with us today, our guest, Casey Williams. You are actually just 7 minutes down the road, right? Is that what you said?
We just bought a new house. Yeah, we're in your backyard.
Congratulations. So I don't know who wants to start this out. So Casey, you are the owner of Victory Float Lounge. I've been to those, man. Just amazing. I can feel the difference. I don't know if I can speak about, what it does as far as recovery and performance as much as you can. That's why we brought you on. But we also brought you on because you're a Pittsburgh guy, ex-athlete, things like that. So what you own is really important to you. I think we don't know each other yet real well. I get a feeling sometimes we will. But who wants to talk about how we met?
Let Casey talk.
I can tell you from my perspective because that was really weird.
It was weird for my wife as well.
Was it? Okay.
Everybody but me, I think.
Yeah.
No, we were good. We were good.
We're good. We're cool with it.
So it was at Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, were we in Palm Springs?
No,
It was the
Salt Lake
layover
City.
flight.
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
We were coming from Palm Springs.
Coming from Palm
Salt
Springs.
Lake.
This is where, so if you guys just checked out, this is being recorded right after the release of our Cactus to Clouds podcast. We were coming back from that. I was already seated in my seat on the plane, and Caleb was supposed to sit right next to me. And he did, all right? He came on a little bit later, and following him comes this gentleman to my left, Casey, and Caleb's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Right?
My buddy from the bathroom.
My buddy from the bathroom. That is how you opened that up. And I'm like, I got so many questions.
Yeah.
Man, so many questions. So that's how we started. And you're like, oh, my goodness. I'm like, only this could happen. I wanted to know, like, the bathroom thing, but I was, you put my mind at ease and just said you met there. So nothing crazy.
Yeah, no, I don't even remember how we started talking.
Well, Salt Lake City, beautiful airport, brand new bathrooms.
Really nice.
Wanted to check them out. So I went in, and the right side was full. I was on my way back out, and we made eye contact, and I was like, "You got to go to the other side." You're like, "All right." I said something different, but I won't say that.
Yeah.
And we found our stalls and went our separate ways, and I thought that was the end of our relationship. And then we sat next to each other on the plane, and we said, "Oh, hey, I remember you."
Yeah.
And my wife was going, "What? Did you go to high school with him?"
Yeah.
She was like, "That's way too comfortable of a greeting."
Right.
And
So
we shared a moment.
yeah,
That's
shared a
right,
moment
man.
in the
That's all
bathroom.
anybody needs to know.
But our company, Center for Victory, your company is Victory Float Lounge, which I thought was cool. I mean, that kind of took it up a notch in the conversation from literally potty talk.
Yeah, no, I mean by the end of the like when that plane landed, you probably got up and we were like, we need to have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, he'd be
I mean, you had even mentioned, and I think sometimes it's kind of apparent, right? There's a reason you chose the word victory. There's a reason we chose the word victory, and even that in and of itself is worth a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't touch on that on the plane.
Yeah.
And you said just do the podcast and we'll get there.
So take us back to that and explain like what you do and how you got into it. So give us a little bit about your background. I teased it a little bit.
Yeah, so I do have to correct you. I am co-owner. My wife is also co-owner, and she has.
Well, that was implied for me.
Right.
You know what's funny? I had this conversation with my wife the other day about the guide company. I'm like, do we have to put co-owner? Can we both just be the owner? So that's good. clarification just
well,
now.
and I have to give her credit because she has really taken the reins on it. Right now, I am just support for her. I'm working on some other things, and she's doing a great job. And I actually had to ask her when you had sent me the list. I said, let me brief myself on this, right? And I said, do you want to go do the podcast? She's like, no, I can't do that. So this works out best for
You might have to do a follow-up.
Yeah.
I may be able to drag her out here. We'll see. But sorry, back to your question.
how you got started, and then kind of the segue into what you're doing now and why it's important, but how you got started.
So I had mentioned to you guys I was a college athlete. I played at a small Division I school at Bucknell University. Great experience, tough experience. You're actually a student athlete and going through that whole process. Once I had graduated, I just enjoyed doing hard physical things. So I got into powerlifting. I was just naturally, I excelled in the lifting part of training for football. So I just kind of stuck with it. It came naturally for me. It was easy. And I had guys back home. I grew up in Moon Township. I had guys back home that were into that. So it was just kind of somebody to train with, and then you kind of catch the bug and you start doing it. So I had I got to the point where I was number 2 in the world in my weight class. It took me about 6, 7, 8 years, and it was dedication to that. And along the way, you're going to deal with some adversity, whether it's your body's telling you can't do it, or an injury or whatever. And I was fortunate I didn't go through a lot of things. I was kind of in tune with what I could do and what I couldn't do in a given moment. But I found that flotation therapy, sensory deprivation tanks, floating was a huge resource that it was so new to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big Joe Rogan podcast fan. I was all about it. The job that I was working at the time, I drove 250 miles a day. So a 3-hour podcast was right up my alley, right? So I was just, every day it was a new podcast. So through the podcast, through powerlifting, I actually reached out to the supplement company on it that he was a part of.
Right.
And they were in their infant stages, because otherwise they wouldn't have had me to represent them as a power lifter. But I sent them an email. I was like, hey, love your stuff, because I was taking it at the time. Do you guys sponsor athletes? And they were like, yeah, sure. Send us your stuff. You're in, right? It was great. So there were at the time, there were 30 people in the company, if that. So I got to go to like their Christmas party and just,
oh my goodness, you didn't tell us that on the plane.
All these fun events. I'll show you some pictures I have. You don't want to see them on here, but I have some pictures from some of these events. It was awesome. So I lost my train of thought. I'm like reliving my glory days.
Oh yeah, the on
So when I went down, you show up and you're with a couple of the other athletes, whatever. They're like, what do you guys want to do? And we're like, you tell us. So they took us to their local float center, and I went through my first. It was 3:00 in the afternoon, and like at 1:00 that day, I had a cup of coffee. So I get to the float center, place you're supposed to relax and chill out, and I'm amped up, ready to go. So they walk you through the whole process. They were really great about it. Their tanks themselves were wonderful. It was big and airy and bright, and I laid there for an hour. They tell you ahead of time, This is an hour. And I didn't know if I could do it or not. You think like, oh, can I do that, right? As a young kid, I was, mid-20s, whatever. So I laid there and in and out of relaxation, but generally just like, oh, okay, is it over yet? Oh, okay, is it over yet? And I had heard so many stories about people loving it. And I was like, okay, the lights came on, it was over, and I got out, and I'm like, okay, part of me feels good. There's a part of me that's like finding some relaxation in this, and there's a part of me that is like mad and frustrated. Like, why couldn't I do that? Well, a couple reasons. One, I had caffeine. 2, it was the first time I had done this. 3, I didn't know any better, right? There's a practice to it, just like anything else.
Yep.
It's not it. What I walked away from that recognizing that was like my first intuition in this idea that you have to cultivate a practice, and sometimes it's good when something comes naturally, because I've kind of leaned into some of those things in my life, And as I've gotten older, things that don't come as naturally, I've leaned into harder. It's like, okay, there's something, there's a fruit here. There's something to mine. There's something to grow. Like, there's something about this that's hard. What about it is hard? So that was the beginning of that process for me, where I recognized, okay, there's so many other people, Joe Rogan talks about it. It's amazing, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it amazing for me. I'm going to figure out how to do that. I came home. There were a couple float centers in Pittsburgh, and one of them still around, the other one isn't, and a bunch of others have popped up. And went to that float center 2, 3, 4 times, and I don't remember if it was the second float or the third float. It was within that range where I came home, and I embraced this idea that, okay, I have to go in not know. There's things I'm not going to know. What's going to come up? When's it going to be over? How am I going to feel? And if you surrender to some of those things, the magic happens. And that's a lesson for everything else in life. It's not just floating, but that's the beauty of it. And it wasn't until maybe a few years later, I had met a friend, and I was like floating, once a month, or nothing crazy, but just enough to kind of keep that practice, keep that. I always tell people it's like when you look at your laptop and you have all your browser tabs open. Floating is essentially like just closing all the browser tabs, like restarting the computer. It's just a clean slate.
Clearing out the email inbox.
That's it, man. It's going to zero, right? It's just a clean slate.
It feels like it goes below zero for me.
And it can, right?
Yeah.
It can be a little bit more for other people. So, and it wasn't until a few years into that I had met my friend and business partner now. He's helped us in a couple other things, but I had told him about it. He went and tried it, and he was like, we need a better version of this in Pittsburgh. He said, I think you can make a better version of it. And at that time, I had the entrepreneurial bug, but I had no confidence. And he really helped me grow my confidence in that way. Besides the business is a physical representation of that. But our thought was, and maybe I'll get into the victory, how we kind of chose the name.
Sure. Absolutely.
I was young. I was a little bit younger, not totally young, but early 30s at this point, and it was like a cool name, Elysium, or like I don't know, whatever, right? Yeah. And I was like, okay, but only guys like me are gonna come do it at that point, right? So we gotta make this like, what does this mean for everybody? If we could get everybody to a point where they can experience this and choose whether it's for them or not, instead of like I tried it. So we came up with Victory, right? Because we picked the biggest tanks we could get. So they're easy to get in and out of. They have light and sound options. So you can go full sensory deprivation. You can turn everything off, not see anything, not feel anything. That's great. That's a great option. But also, what if somebody comes in and they have back pain and they don't want to experience floating in a cloud and mentally being in the universe and detached from their body? Well, then that's a win for them too, right? So everybody's win can look different. Yeah. So we wanted to make this a place that wasn't, you have to be Zen to come in. Right. Like, if you're anxious, then maybe this is the place for you, right? And that the product that we've offered since we started, it's called the Victory 180. It's 3 floats for $99, which is way too cheap.
Wow.
But the reason that we do that is because it gives people the opportunity. It's a financial commitment that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but it gives them the opportunity. See, somebody's calling for the 180 right now.
I know, man.
So it gives them the opportunity to do it at a price point that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but really reduced relative to kind of what we offer. Yeah. But it gives them 3 chances to do it, right? Because you go in one time and maybe you forget and you wipe salt water in your eyes. That sucks. That can ruin the experience, right? So it gives people the opportunity to develop their own practice and really experience it for what it could be for them.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
I ran through a lot there.
No, I love it. One thing I noticed this on your website when you brought up Elysium, it made me think of Gladiator, and I saw on your website you had the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
And so one of our programs that we run is called it's called Aurelius, and the website was Aurelius 520, and so in Marcus Aurelius' 5th book, 20th entry, wrote the impediment to action advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way. And so that was kind of like our tagline for that. And then I saw that. I'm like, get out of here. Like, Victory, like, you know, the obstacle is away. I'm like, this is yeah, we're all on the same page. It's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's stoicism or whatever school you want to go to. I think there's just so much wisdom that we have neglected to look at. Like, the answers are there.
Yeah.
And you know, society now, I won't go on a tirade, but we're too comfortable. Like, we live at 70 degrees. Life is so comfortable.
There's a comfort crisis
right?
going on here.
Right. And it's just like, I think that maybe like a big challenge for parents, for example, like as us as individuals have our own challenges, but parents is like, you need to give your kids things that are hard, safe, but hard and uncomfortable. And as adults, we need to practice that too. I mean, you guys know that, but maybe that is a hike for me, and maybe that's a float session for somebody else, and maybe you know, it's just, there's so many ways to do it, and and maybe that's part of the problem. We get stuck because there's so many options now that it's easier to not do anything.
So one of the first books that Eric gave me was it's called The Comfort Crisis. It's essentially, I don't know if you've read that book, but it's essentially that. I mean, that's it. Yeah. That's
doing hard things.
Doing hard things, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, growing from that, and doing that incrementally changes you as a person and grows you. So.
Yeah, that's a kind of a neat thing to think about, Casey, as you look at that, because I never walked into my first float thinking it was going to be difficult, because I was excited about it.
Yeah.
Right, because I got it. It could be. I mean, I guess it could really freak somebody out when, especially with some of the ones I've been in, where you're floating and it just goes dark.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That could really freak somebody out. That could be worse than taking somebody through the canyon. So, yeah, I mean, it really could.
Right, and everybody has their version of hell, right?
Yeah.
And maybe a dark room is that for somebody. But I was really excited for my first float, because I was like, I'm doing the Joe Rogan thing. Right? At that age, man. I was like, yeah. And then I was like, man, that sucked. That was hard. That was uncomfortable. It was whatever. So it took some time to kind of parse through that and recognize that, like, you can't just be good at everything. That's not the point.
Yeah, let's talk about, like, why float, why would you do it, the benefits and things like that, because I don't think, like, I could ask you, I know the answer to this, but it's not just woo-woo, right? There are benefits to doing that. And then, like, for me, to be able to, I think my best ideas come sometimes after those sessions, whatever you want to call it, because it might just slow your mind down. And you know, I've gotten to the point now, I'm just conditioned. As soon as my head hits that, within 2 or 3 minutes, I'm out. It could be in the middle of the afternoon. I guess I've never went in the morning, but I mean, when I go, I'm out, and I wake up right before that. I don't know, it's not the buzzer, but you know, right before
the
that
light,
hour,
the sound, the whatever comes on.
But it's amazing. So let's talk about, why would you even do that, and what is it, like, even for people? I'm assuming that everybody knows what it is, but I doubt if some of our audience knows what is flotation.
Yeah,
therapy.
and that's honestly, that's maybe the hardest part about our business at the moment is just education.
Yeah.
What is floating, right? I'll give you the what. It's it's a standalone tank that has about 12 inches of water. Our tanks are a little bit bigger, so we have 1,500 pounds of Epsom salt in each tank. So a lot of it's almost like when we fill the tanks, you know, when we have to put new salt in, whatever, you can see, like, the salt barely goes into solution, right? So it's dense. It's like the same density as the Dead Sea, essentially. And it's all skin temperature. So the water itself, the air, so it feels a little bit humid in there, but our tanks have like circulating air, so it's not, it's easier to breathe in, but it's, again, still warm. And with our tanks and other tanks out there, some have light and sound buttons, right? So they're like air buttons. It's not like an electrical switch in there that's going to hurt you or anything, right? It's a safe button. But there's, you know, our tanks have a big light at the bottom, so they'll kind of light the whole room up. There's a night sky at the top, so you can have like a low level light option, which is helpful for people that aren't looking for that full sensory deprivation experience. And then a sound option. And actually, Lindsay just kind of pioneered this. I shouldn't say she pioneered this. She pioneered this for us. She's kind of worked with other float studios, but we'll put on tracks like Rain, you know, like a windy forest kind of thing, like these natural, you know, very, you know, a thunderstorm, things that as like human beings are just natural, like they can be calming sounds
Waves.
or
Yeah.
yeah, right. So just like those types of sounds that are very primordial. What's the word?
It's almost like the human gray noise, things
Yeah,
that you're used to
right.
hearing, or I don't know if that's the
It's
bilateral
like the things
brain
that are just
spotting
there. It's
too,
in you,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you know exactly what that is, and it elicits a certain physical response.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's the advantage, right? We can kind of tailor some of that experience kind of depending on what, and everybody's going to have a different response to it, but it's something to try within that. And the other part I should probably mention, our tanks are 6.5 feet by 7 feet at the base and 7 feet tall. So bigger than
That's a big tank.
yeah. Some people like picture a coffin,
Right.
And some of the old tanks were essentially
Yeah.
coffins, which some people are okay with that. These are the size of a good sized bathroom, the
Yeah.
entire tank itself, and you can get in there and I'm going to step away from the microphone and starfish, right?
Yeah.
Just like totally kind of find a good position that works for you, and that can be important for a lot of people too. So that's the tank itself. We get people that come to us. It's kind of, there's 3 or 4 buckets. It's neck pain, back pain, stress and anxiety. We get new parents that have kind of heard about us, and the biggest thing we get when they come out, they're like, no, hey mom, hey dad,
Yeah.
like just some peace,
Yeah.
right? Some quiet. We get pregnant women, a lot of pregnant women. The old new birthing thing is giving birth in water. No, nobody's giving birth in our tanks. We have very clear times when it's appropriate to come in as a pregnant woman and times that it's not. But if you can picture, hold that, whatever thought, hold that. But if you can picture, when you are in the tank, it is a skin temperature environment. It's wet, it's dark, everything is kind of comforting. It's like being back in the womb, right? There's a human experience that we all have of that. So there's a reason that you can kind of navigate to a different place in your brain in there, because you are back in an environment that is, it's the beginning. And it's an interesting concept to kind of play around with.
And you could probably speak to this better than I can, but I was researching this a little bit, and I saw there was like a lot of research when somebody was in the tank. They were doing like brain monitoring, brain scans, and so the waves of your brain actually change where it's like this, it's not in your typical wake wavelength cycle, but it's also not in this sleep wavelength cycle. It's kind of that. Am I on the right track
No, I'm
here?
glad you brought it up, because you're absolutely right. And it was something that being away from being in the business 24/7, that I've kind of forgot how I talk about these things. So this is nice. I get to kind of refresh.
Yeah.
There's, I think, 5 different brain states. They're brain waves: alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, right? I don't know if there's another one or not, but anyways.
Between you guys,
Yeah.
you're
right. So theta is what you get to in a deep meditation. It's what you get to right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up.
Yeah. Okay.
So naturally we spend a little bit of time there. If you meditate, you might spend longer time there. When you float, you get there.
Yeah.
Now, not every time. Again, I had too much caffeine. That's gonna kind of alter where you're at. But if you do this long enough, meaning enough sessions, or even just one long enough session, you will get there. And what theta is, it's a restorative state. Restores the brain, restores the body, and it's an interesting part of nature, right? That we have to zonk out for 6 or 8 hours a night. Like it's not in our best interest.
Right.
But obviously, our brains need that, because you can follow studies where people don't sleep enough, and there's terrible detrimental effects to that. So it's interesting that theta, we naturally don't spend a lot of time there, but when you do, you enter a creative state,
Right.
and you're finding again, it's that clean slate response where instead of, if you do it, I'll give you the short of it. It's like when you ski down a hill, there's the tracks. And if you ski down the same tracks every time, they get deeper, and that's a habit, right? So if my habit is, this is one I'm realizing right now, when I get in the car and I have a drive over like 30 minutes, I put a Zyn pouch in, because I like nicotine, right? I've had to rewire that because it was so natural.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I get in the car and I reach for it and I'm like, it's not there. I'm like, okay, this is good. Like I'm rewiring a little bit, right? And that's a part of what floating can do, or meditating, or theta state in general, is smooth out that snow.
Yeah.
And kind of
rewire the brain.
Well, it does. It resets,
Yeah.
and it's like there are times when it resets so much for me. I have to call my wife and talk to her on the way home because I am super chill.
Like,
man.
I don't know if I should be
Right.
driving home after this.
And I've said that to her before. I'm like, man, I know I'm going to be in a good place.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I can go home and then like do some things and go right to bed too. But it's just amazing. And that's a huge benefit. And it's something that I shouldn't take as much for granted, because there are some people that don't get there at all. Sometimes their nervous system is so wired up. And that's what causes that anxiety, the stress, the distress, the depression, the anger, and like you come out of there and you're like super chill, but it's also, it resets the thermostat, right? It brings it back down. And a lot, I used to, my story, Caleb. I mean, I used to just be like constant, like go, but I was always very angry as well. And then to get to this point, and I'm not walking around.
You're not floating around.
Yeah. But man, I tell you what, when you can see somebody get that kind of relief, and that's why I want to get back to that. It's a real thing. It's a real benefit. And people are like, well, you can't, you're just going to lay in water. You're paying for that.
Well, it has a lasting benefit too. I think for individuals that are floating regularly like that, those.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. And I haven't read any of the studies, and it's been a year or two since I've kind of gone through those. The Float Tank Association, actually, Dr. Justin Feinstein, I think his name is, has done a lot of these studies. And it's very clear that like, oh, this hangs with you for a while, right? And it's cool because it's like, if you do it regularly, that bank gets a little deeper and a little deeper. You're kind of building up that reserve. And I always tell people like, we have to create space for things. Otherwise, we walk around with a full cup. Whatever's in the cup is going to come out. When you have something that bothers you, it's going to come out.
Right.
And you've got to find things that empty that cup. And that's a hard thing because, now it's like, well, I have a headache, so I take a pill, and I have this, so I take that. It's always adding.
Right.
And the solution a lot of times is just get rid of something. Whether that's like take the space to sit in a float tank or meditate or get a massage, or it doesn't matter what it is, but like find something that empties, right? Like gets rid of something for you instead of trying to add.
Yeah, and there's a huge benefit. I know just other benefits just for me. I'm just speaking because I've done it over and over again. But, I think the first thing that I noticed was my neck, right? Because we tend to like be doing this all day, like at our computers. And the first couple of times I was freaked out because, when you lay your head back, it's like, oh, it doesn't want to go that far back.
Yeah.
But I know it can go back further. And the first couple of times you're like, is it going to stay there? The rest of your body's there, right? And I remember feeling like, is it my head going to stay there? Like, is it heavier?
Yeah.
It might be a lot heavier than the rest of my body. Shut up. Some good jokes coming with that. But that, and then, one of the minerals that I really tend to be deficient in is just the salt, and what that does, like for aching muscles. Was crazy with, especially as much as we hike to get in there, calm. Especially like my calves, I can really feel it in my calves. They start, I have trouble with them spasming and things like that. It just like resets the whole body.
So that's a good point. And a lot of the science will say you can't absorb magnesium. So we use magnesium chloride. Can't absorb magnesium through your skin. And I will tell you that anytime I've had a cramp and I've used magnesium lotion on the cramp, it goes away. It's like, that's a little too, right? So the problem is the way they would have to test it. They would have to draw blood. You'd have to submerge. You'd have to immediately draw blood after. It's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand we can't say that you absorb magnesium through your skin, but all anecdotal evidence that I have is we absorb magnesium through our skin. As adults in the U.S., we are all magnesium deficient. We don't get enough from our food, whether it's a soil problem or a production problem, whatever, it doesn't matter. But we need magnesium, and it's I think it's in like 230 processes in the body. I mean, it's something that our body uses for everything. Muscle contractions being a big one, but again, that's a piece. I won't be like, yeah, this clinically guaranteed to whatever, but again, anecdotally,
right,
it works. Like we get a lot of, runners and athletes that are looking to recover, and this is one of the things they do. The other part that you kind of touched on with your neck and your head, you float on the water. I think this is kind of maybe something that I forget, that like, okay, conceptually, right? You float almost on top of the water. There's not a whole lot of your body that's underneath of it because it's so dense. So it is the only environment besides maybe a wind tunnel or a plane that goes to space, right, and does the whole breach thing, where you're weightless. So you have no weight on your joints. Everything is kind of free to flow as it should. That's why we get a lot of neck pain, back pain customers, because they come in and now they're starting to get blood flow to parts of their body where
they don't typically
it's compressed. And it's compressed almost all the time, right? So there's some other things to that, but joint pain relief can be helpful for a lot of people.
Like I know you're here, but even if you weren't here, I would tell people that it's been a great experience. Probably one of those things, I listen to stuff like that, and whether it's Rogan or Huberman or Tia or Brecca or whatever, that take it all in. It's like, okay, would I try that? Does that really work? Is it hocus pocus? And I think the thing of it is really not just doing it once and going, oh, that was weird. The first time probably for a lot of people is weird, because it's
just different.
How many times are you just held up like that?
And like nowadays, people, how often are you just disconnected digitally, like for an hour, disconnected from your email, phone calls, text, other people, kids, like it's just I think we need to get that for Ryan, who was in the studio a little bit. He's just a new father. I think that would get him afloat.
Yeah, there he goes right there. Speaking of,
well, if you want to make him happy, get his wife afloat.
Yeah, there you go. That's a win-win.
Yeah,
Couples.
When I first had kids, I'm like, oh man, I went straight back when you said new parents. I'm like, oh yeah, I could have used that. Calm me down real quick.
Hey everyone, Kolb here with AMP Adventures. Today we are out in Glacier National Park in Montana. We're just a couple miles south of Canada. There's some beautiful views here. This is Kinnerly Peak, Kitla Peak, Mount Peabody. So it's been a great trip so far. If you're interested on any of our adventures, check out the Experiences tab. See you on the trail.
Yeah, so let's talk about locations too, because I don't want to forget about that, because I feel like I'm going to forget about it. So if we want to jump back and talk more about the floats, we can. But you are in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah, so we have our first location was in Lawrenceville, right next to there's the Clemente Museum, like the Doughboy statue there. So we're right in Lawrenceville. We have a parking lot there. That was like the big thing when we chose that location. We loved Lawrenceville at the time, we still do, but we wanted a parking lot, right? Because the last thing I wanted, like if I'm going to a float, I was like, what am I going to park? Right? Just take that off the list, right? So we let everybody know, come and park here, like. Just one less thing you have to worry about. So that's worked out really well. And in our, we were a year and a half into that location, and there was a float studio in Swickley that was going out of business. I was a customer there. I actually almost forgot about them while I was telling that story. There were three, I think, at one point in the early days of floating in Pittsburgh. And I was a customer with them. And they were going out of business. It was like kind of COVID, they were getting a little bit older or whatever. So they sold we bought the business from them and rebranded, and basically as best we could mirrored what we were doing in Lawrenceville. So in Lawrenceville now we've got 3 big float tanks. We have a sauna and a cold plunge. In Swickley We have 2 float tanks, sauna and cold plunge. There's a red light bed because that was something that they had, and there's a host of other benefits that go with that. And a salt cave, which is kind of just a cool room that we can do events in and those kind of things. There's benefit to it. There's actually a machine that puts salt in the air. So like, when you go to the beach, you're like, oh, I can breathe easy, right?
Yeah,
That's all it does. It just clears you out.
Yeah.
So we'll get people to come in for allergies and sinus stuff and whatever. So that was
That's
not
the one in Sewickley.
That's the one in Sewickley. That was not something we came up with.
Yeah.
It's been around. We bought it from the previous owners. It's just a cool space, and we decided to keep it. So
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. And then how do people find you?
So I learned a hard lesson. We came up with the name Victory Float Lounge. And I was like, I think I put it on Instagram, we're going to name ourselves Victory Float Lounge.
Uh-huh.
And I saw the domain was there before I announced that. Not 3 hours later, right? I was like, I'll go home and do it because I had my laptop on me. Gone.
Oh.
And so we've tried to buy it, and they won't communicate with us or a GoDaddy or a sale. They won't communicate with anybody. So I know who it is. There's an entity that has done this, and that's fine. It's okay. But it kind of goes against the whole float.
Yeah.
Like I'll tell you, you can find us at www.floatvictory.com. All good. And I will tell you, if you don't like us, go float somewhere else. Like, please, it's just good for you.
Right.
We don't care. There's enough float studios and enough people that like you'll find a place for you. You'll find what makes you happy. But boy, did that chap my ass for no reason.
Yeah,
for no reason.
Chapping mine, and I
I
didn't
know.
even have.
I'm not even a part of it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and you guys are on Instagram, right?
We're on Instagram. Victory Float Lounge on Instagram. I think we have a Facebook, but we try not to use it. It's just. It's cumbersome, so like we try to direct everybody to the one thing.
Yeah.
Our number is on the website for each location, so you can call individually. But the girls that work for us are freaking awesome. They can kind of take you back and forth between both. It's not a big deal.
Nice.
It's just I think back to our point, like it's come as you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not here to. This is how you have to do it, and this is what you should get out of it. And
Right.
like, tell me what you got out of it. Like, teach me something, right? Like, is there another way that we can talk about this that is going to be helpful for people?
What's like a success story that you could share?
Oh, so my wife is going to kill me. She was like, hey, remember so-and-so, remember so-and-so. And I'm going to blank on it at the moment. We've had in the last 2 years, we've had a bunch of pregnant women come in and float. Some of them are trying to get the baby to flip, which is like a traumatic thing. Like they want to have the birth a certain way, and it doesn't work out and whatever. We've had, if we've had, let's say 5 pregnant women in the last 2 years that wanted that baby to flip. I think we had like 3 of them, like 2 or 3, which again, I don't know why maybe it happens because the baby is like, it's taking pressure off in a certain way and it's allowing something to happen. Again, no guarantee that something like that is going to happen if anybody's listening to this, but like there's some actual like, oh, this happened, while or right after. So that was one of them. We've had people come in and like, since we had opened, like do 250 floats, like 200 floats, 250 floats. So this is obviously something that keeps them level, right? Just keeps them feeling like a human being, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is something we all get away from at times.
100%.
Right?
And this is something that's interesting. I was sharing this with Eric because I had heard about you guys before we even met. And I didn't put it together till after, but so I run a nonprofit. We work specifically with veterans and first responders. A lot of them are living with depression, severe depression, drug-resistant depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress. And I had a couple of our guys that have been going to you, and they were talking about you. And this is a while ago, but I didn't put it together until after we met, and then you were coming on here, and I'm like, oh. Like, I've heard about you before. So I know you got some of our clients that speak very highly of you guys.
Yeah, the veterans are always fun because they're going to just kind of tell you there's not a big filter. Like they're just going to tell you where they're at. And, And yeah, so you get some interesting stories before and even more interesting after.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another one. There was a police officer at the synagogue shooting that had, he's been through 25 surgeries at this point. He was a friend of a friend, sent him in. He did like 4, 5, 6 floats, kind of, you know, I was friendly enough with him that like we kind of developed a good relationship after, you know, through that process. But it was really helpful for him. That first one was awful, right? He was like, okay, you know, he's remembering things his therapist said and kind of connecting the dots and experiencing some things. And now again, I don't say that to say that like if you've had any trauma in your life, you're going to relive that in a float tank. That's generally not what happens. But that's what he was there for, was to immerse himself back into a time and place that was hard and do it in a way that he was safe. So there are stories like that. I'm not going to share it. It's not my place to share, but there's a deeper side to floating and therapy and trauma that can be helpful for people. And we have, you know, a contingent of older guys and girls that this keeps them going, right? And it's just cool to see them, you know, they're 60, 70. We have a late 80-year-old that comes in with us, and they're just like, oh, you know, it's great because they're like, I'm here for my daily thing.
This
you know,
is my routine,
like,
baby.
It's just what they do. And so yeah, it's that I think that's the weird part for me as I'm looking back on all these years is just like the spectrum of people that come in and that we interact with. So thanks for helping me relive that. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I've been through it again and again and again. I mean, it's like with anything, you have to be consistent with it to get the benefit. And but I mean, how much do you float?
Not enough. So I will tell you, like, as through our years, when you're working there, right, you're like, okay, I'm done. I've cleaned everything. I've taken care of everything. Like, I'm gonna go.
Preach. Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Right. So, you know, it's really easy to let taking care of yourself slide, right? Especially as a small business owner, and you know, whatever excuse you want to make. I will say that there are times where I dedicate, like, intentionally, okay, it's time to get back to this practice, and it's okay that I'm not doing it now. I think that's part of what I've had to learn is I'm not a bad business owner because I don't use my stuff every day. Like, we started this because we like it. And we saw value in it for everybody else. And I think there are plenty of business owners that start a business like, I like floating and I'm going to do it this way. And I actually think those business owners go through the hardest lesson of this is actually for everybody else too. Right. That's why you started. Like, I see it with gym owners all the time. They start a gym because they want to make their gym the way they want to make it, not because they want to run a business and help other people. So like, I wish I could be like, I'm zen as hell and I do this.
No, I mean, that's a better answer than I was expecting.
It's just the reality. Like I, you know, we can talk about this maybe later, but like, I've found there's other outlets for me right now that are really beneficial, meditation being one. But my wife and I just came back from Peru. That was our 3rd ayahuasca trip.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
One of the best. I feel so blessed to have, like, just kind of fallen into, we're going to try this thing. It's that. So floating changed my life in one way. That has changed my life in another way. And it's just, there's crossover to some of those things. It's not, floating is not psychedelic. It's not a trip. It's nothing like that.
Sure.
But there's some interesting, insightful pieces to both of those things. So
good stuff. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Casey, because it's called Your Best Day Yet, what's your, how would you classify your best day yet? What does it look like?
I'm thinking of, you know, I saw that and I was like, all right, have I had my best day? And I'll be honest, I don't think I have had my best day yet. Right?
That's awesome. Yeah, let's go.
I think, like, I haven't had a hard life. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's been tough, but like, I've had some hardships that I'm like, oh man. as what am I, 37 now? As a 37-year-old, I feel like I'm actually starting to hit my stride.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is good. So, you know, I love my brother, and he won't ever listen to this, but he was like, oh, high school was the best. And I was like, oh, man, high school's over. And looking back, I'm like, high school was the worst.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, okay, we're on the up and up now, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're climbing. This is good. So I've done this exercise, I've done it with my wife and my friends to think about what would my best day look like, right? And it's waking up, no alarm, grabbing some coffee with my wife, maybe walking the dogs, maybe meeting a friend for lunch, like helping. I like mentorship. I like being mentored. I like mentoring. So like finding ways to give back. Hopefully, we're working on some other businesses that maybe take off and give us the opportunity to help in a bigger way. And if we don't, that's okay too. Like, you can still help in small ways. So I think for me, it's taking my experiences and making them useful to other people. So a version of that is my best day.
I love it.
Love it.
We're gonna have you. I noted when you started, you were talking about kind of some of the other things you were getting into, and you mentioned it again. We're gonna have to have you back on for part 2 with the new business launch.
I'm an employee in this one, which is good, and so like the thing about like being an entrepreneur, you take on everything, but you learn so much. And now being on the other side of it, I'm like, oh man, I can be really good at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know that's what the business needs. So it's just, going through that whole process. And I've been on both sides.
Clue me in, or what?
So my it's not, I hyped this up too much. It's not like super exciting, but it's cool at the end of the day. My friend and business partner he built a specialty pharmacy with some other guys. This is version 2.0 of it, and it is rare and orphan disease. So you may have a drug that has 100 patients in the United States, and it is white glove care to make sure that their insurance is taken care of and they get what they need. It's on time. It's proper. So it's not like going to Giant Eagle and getting your script. It's like not always life and death, but a lot of times can really affect their quality of life if it's not delivered appropriately and all those things. I'm learning pharmacy at this stage of my life. I won't be a pharmacist or anything like that. I'm not going back to school. Like, I'll just learn while we're there. But it's just another level of caring and helping. Everything that we do at the end of the day is to help somebody. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I don't know, 8-9 years ago, something like that. It was kind of the end of my powerlifting career, actually. Yeah. I lost 60 pounds in 6 weeks. I looked like a shell of myself. My wife, who was not my wife at the time, she saw me. We had been working together, and she didn't even recognize me. Like taking care of people is having gone through a life-altering thing at that point. I don't know. My life is a big, weird Venn diagram of like things that kind of cross.
But it sounds like, you found your mission and you have your vision, your purpose. And
I appreciate that, but I know that, like, I know what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Like, I finally feel at this point, like, all right, like we're on it. It's going to change and veer and look different. But I'm grateful to have a North Star to your point. Like, yeah.
Good stuff. Man, that's real good.
I love it.
Good stuff. Yeah, we'll have to have you back on. I know we do a lot here at One Team Media with contractors as well, and they could really use some good tips on their health because
dude, they can use a float if anything.
Yeah, right. Just to chill, especially this time of year. But thanks, Casey, for being on. Caleb, thanks for becoming his bathroom buddy. I don't know how well that sounds.
Look at us now.
Yeah, look at you now. I should never shake my head in doubt. I should always be like, yep,
Up and down head shake.
Yep,
baby.
that's. I don't expect anything less. So thank you for saying something to Casey. Thank you for continuing to talk to us, even though we look probably like two goofballs coming home from Pittsburgh.
Exhausted, dirty,
Yeah,
tired.
you guys you had gone through it.
Yeah.
So that's all for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. You can get more information at centerforvictory.com, and just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this